host. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist and neuro-linguistic programming practitioner, and welcome to tonight's episode of Ready, Jetset, Go. Here at Ready, Jetset, Go, we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly in travels. And we have a special guest today. So he's actually another coach. He's a breakup coach for men, and Shawn is a certified NLP practitioner who has used NLP to change his life after going through breakup himself years ago, and now dedicates himself to coach men through their breakup using NLP. So let's all welcome my guest, Shawn Britzius. So hello, Shawn. How are you?
Hello, I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Perfect, perfect. I'm so glad that you have taken the time in order to be with us. So, um, I know that some people have heard about NLP, and some people are wondering what the hell is NLP. So, so, let us, tell us like what is NLP?
Yeah, so that's one thing that I do notice with a lot of people. Whenever I bring up the topic of NLP, they usually don't know what NLP is. I mean, I was like that just a year ago from now. But basically what NLP is I explain it in a way where it's using certain language and being able to exercise your subconscious mind to be able to change the programming to be able to achieve certain results or certain goals in your life. Essentially that's from a coaching perspective, and as well with NLP is like utilized in so many other aspects of life within sales, business, even social media itself. But from a coaching perspective, it's mostly used for to be able to give certain like language to be able to program the mind to be a certain way to achieve the results that you would desire in the future. So, and it's very powerful. It's absolutely powerful.
Okay. So in this show, we usually talk about travel, but maybe you can give us some advice on different things to combat unforeseen circumstances, things that they cannot control and, can trigger their negative emotions. Sometimes, like when we're traveling, it can be like, something pops up and then maybe you have lost your valuable, or maybe you have missed a flight, and that can be really like scary as well. And then you had an argument probably with your companion. Do you have some advice that you can share with us using the NLP?
Yes, I would say the biggest piece of advice I would say is it's kind of like the basic laws of attraction, but it's basically like Tony Robbins talks about it, a whole bunch of other people talk about it, but it's to really focus on what you want, because what you focus on is what you get. Is where your energy, what Tony Robbins says, where your focus goes, your energy flows. And essentially, when you focus so much of your energy on negative, the bad situation, and everything, from there, all your energy is being filled within that negative energy within you. And it's kind of crazy because whenever I'm like speaking to people through discovery calls, sales calls, or whatever, and I'm breaking down their whole situation, essentially, I always ask them like, "What's your struggles? What's your challenges?" They could tell me that all day, struggling with this, struggling with that, da 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 da. As soon as I ask them, "Okay, what's your goal? What's your outcome? What do you want?" They're always like, "I don't know." And it kind of goes in a role play of like a lot of just society in general. And I mean, I used to be like this as well, where we just focus so much on what we don't want. But when we focus on what we don't want, our subconscious mind doesn't process uh, negative words such as don't, won't, shouldn't, or anything like that. And when you focus on what you don't want, it just doesn't process that negative word. So, for an example, if you say, I don't want to be fat, it's not going to process the don't, and it's going to just say, want to be fat. Got it. And it will follow that order and attract the things to be able to make you fat, essentially. And when we start focusing on the things that we don't want, essentially that's when negative emotions start to arise, because we have a negative perception of ourselves, on the things that we're achieving or we're attracting in our lives. And it's a huge buildup. And what a lot of people do with the negative emotions is that they kind of ignore them, or give a distraction, scroll through social media, go do some other hobby, or whatever. And from distracting, they distract themselves, don't properly release it. And from that, it's a huge buildup. It's a huge buildup of a whole bunch of different negative emotions. And I used to be like this myself. So many buildup of negative emotions, I would ignore them. And then there would be one specific point where I would just let it all out, just basically my boiling point. And it would cause me to do things that I would regret, essentially. Uh, so essentially, yeah. And we're not really properly told how to release our negative emotions, or at least at a very fast pace. Um, so I'd say the biggest piece of advice is to really focus on what you do want and not what you don't want. Because where your focus goes, your energy flows, basically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I believe that because I'm sure the naysayers usually are attracting more of those negative stuff in their system. So what can be the consequences, like you yourself, it becomes a build up, like it can reach your boiling point somehow. What can be the consequences if someone does not clean up their negative emotions?
Well, I mean, kind of like what I said before. When you have so much of a buildup of negative emotions over and over, and then you reach that boiling point, when you reach that boiling point, it'll really make you cause yourself to do things. Like, you kind of lose control of yourself and your actions, because essentially what goes up with your mind basically controls your whole body, in a sense. Controls your actions, controls everything. Like me just moving like this is from my own mind, like shooting like energy from within my neurotransmitters to make this movement happen. And it's the same thing when you reach that boiling point, when you're in a certain emotional state of anger. You're so angry that you just lose control. And this actually happened to me years ago. It actually caused me with my breakup, where I got so mad, I got so pissed off, and I got worked up, that I started to do actions that I didn't really mean to do. And I realized that I regretted them the next day later. And that's when I sent like a breakup text to my girlfriend. And I realized the next day I screwed up. And you just start to lose control of not your emotions, but you lose control of your actions because you're in that certain emotional state. Uh, so that's kind of like the consequences of, you will do things that you essentially regret if you get so worked up and you reach that boiling point, essentially. And
Yeah.
in order for you to not do things that you want to regret, you have to find a way to properly release your emotions every once in a while, to just keep your mind clear. Because what is clear up here, essentially your whole entire body and your whole entire life will start to be cleared up too.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because you were saying you'll do stuff that you will eventually regret, and so I believe that. And so I also met some people, they have a lot of negative emotions, and so what happened is that because they have that in their system for a long time, and then like surprised, like they get sick. Like one time I met somebody, she said she has uh, cancer, and I was thinking like, okay, so what happened? Maybe 1 or 2 years prior, and she can think about it, but I have to actually keep on asking her, and then she said like, oh, now I know. I had a breakup with my ex-husband, and so like, okay, so sometimes people don't correlate it. So yeah, I think you have to be very careful. So I believe we have to do something about it. So, who are the ideal people who would probably benefit from this NLP that you're talking about?
I would honestly say everybody.
Ah,
Everybody can absolutely like benefit from NLP just because like being able to utilize some of the techniques and some of the tools and the resources that NLP uses can absolutely like just change your life, releasing negative emotions, limiting beliefs from yourself, releasing certain energy built up with a certain person. There's so many different things that it can benefit you in your life. And if you're pursuing to become a coach, like I am, it even helps you even more to be able to utilize it on other people as well and showing people. And it's absolutely life changing because I really realized recently like just how important the language is that you tell yourself on a daily basis. For an example is uh, I really formed a certain like piece of language from my dad. He would usually, whenever growing up, he'd be like, "I can't afford that. That's too expensive." Da da
mm,
da da da. And that caused it formed like a certain limiting belief within myself, always saying, "That's too expensive. I can't afford that." Da da. And with that certain limiting belief, your subconscious mind reads that, and it's like, "Oh, you're essentially you're essentially poor. It basically interprets it to be you to be like essentially, oh, you're poor, okay, you can't afford that, it's too expensive, and you're going to constantly think everything is too expensive. And then I had to let go of that limited belief to actually start pursuing my business, um essentially, just because. And I had to change like the language that I tell myself to be able to make money, that I can make millions of money, all this sort of jazz. So I started to tell myself, instead of saying, I can't afford that, that's too expensive, I just tell myself I could buy that, I just don't want to.
that's a
And
good one.
yeah, so just by doing that and just telling your small little language that you tell yourself internally and even externally, I talk to myself a lot. It can actually start to just form a certain different programming within your subconscious mind. Because 100% of the time, your subconscious mind is listening to every single word that comes in and out of your mouth. So, and like, there's a saying of perception is projection. What you
Mm.
basically project outside to other people and everything is basically a big perception of how you view yourself. And it's so powerful with NLP, and I think everybody can benefit from it in so many various ways.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I love what you have shared about, like, that conversation you have had with your father, and then you have just tweaked it around. So, obviously it works, because you said you have had some success about it. S-
Hmm.
so since we're in a travel show, so would you tell us, like, where else would you like to go as part of your bucket list?
Yeah, I would say I'll say one of my number one places, which I might live there at some point, is Dubai. 'Cause
Oh.
I've always heard so many good things about Dubai. I was actually recently on a deployment on a ship, and basically there was a few people from my unit were able to go to Dubai. They had this amazing freaking huge hotel room. And it didn't even look like a hotel room. It was basically like a huge house or mansion.
Wow.
And just seeing there was like a huge overview of the city and everything. And one of the biggest things that I love about like just traveling is just seeing the big buildings, the lights, and just the basically just all the scenery of like all the big buildings and the lights and everything. And when one of my friends who went to Dubai, he showed me it, and it just absolutely like it looked beautiful. And I love traveling. I'm like a little kid in the candy store, just oh wow, this is crazy. So Dubai would definitely be uh my top priorities of places that I want to travel and even live in the future. So, yeah.
And where else have you lived? Did you live in any other country? Because you're, thinking about like, okay, I'm gonna live there, and so I'm not sure. Like, have you started, living in any other countries before?
I've been in other countries, but I've never necessarily lived in other countries.
Okay.
Um, I've I was born in Sandpoint, Idaho,
Hmm.
and I was basically raised in Longview, Washington, and then I came down here to California because of the military, and then I loved it in California, so I kind of stayed. Um, Other than that, that's pretty much all that I have lived. However, I have been to other countries, like I went to Bahrain
Hmm.
just recently while I was on the deployment. Absolutely beautiful scenery and just an amazing experience overall. Um, Yeah, that would be the biggest thing. I've been to Hawaii before. It's not necessarily another country, but Hawaii is amazing as well. So, and I definitely want to start traveling a lot more for sure because just like I said, traveling just makes me feel this sense of energy within to make me feel alive and feel like that little kid in the candy store. And I love that feeling, absolutely.
Yeah. So, like I have had a lot of guests, and they usually talk about Turkey, India, Hawaii. So, you're the first person that I've come across who has been to Bahrain. So, can you tell us like what's special to see in Bahrain? Because I have no idea.
Yeah. It was definitely an experience. One thing that I really took note of was that they really separate the genders a lot more than what we do here.
Mm.
It was kind of crazy because at the resort that I was staying at, there was a gym there. However, there was two different gyms, one for males and one for females. And it was the same thing for everything else. It was like there's a spa, one for males, one for females, massage room, one for male, one for female. So it really separated the genders a lot more than what they do in the United States. So that was one thing that I definitely noticed that was a lot different from the United States. And I I also got discovered to something that I never knew was even a thing. But basically, the opposite of a sauna, basically a snow room. They,
Oh.
they at the resort I was at, there was a room just full of snow that you just basically the opposite of a sauna. You just freeze your butt off while you're in the snow room, and I guess just get that sense of uh, energy flow within your body as you're shivering and everything. So I never knew about that. So that was another thing I got introduced to. So those were some of the biggest things that I got from there
Yeah.
while I stayed
Did
there.
did they treat you differently because you're, I'm not sure. Like, maybe they say, "Oh, he's an American."
um, I I mean I didn't really notice too much. I mean great customer service. I'll tell you that. Great customer
Ooh.
service at that resort. They were really happy. Um, feel good energy. Like I'm a type of person who reads vibes a lot. If I could read that you have a good vibe and it's just a good time, like I love it. And that was pretty much every single person at that resort. It was just good time, good vibes, happy, smiling. So it was great customer service and the great people there as well. It was absolutely an amazing time for sure.
Yeah, wow. Like, that's gonna be exciting if you'll be traveling to these places that you want to go. Like, maybe we can invite you again, like once you have gone to Dubai. So, so
Yeah.
thank you so much for your time. So, in this talk show, you can be your own Rick Stives, Joseph Rosendo, or Peter Greenberg, or even Samantha Brown, and create your own story with your own twist. So, we're always looking for resource speakers, either professionals in the travel industry or somebody who's just a enthusiast. So, give me a howler, and then I'll see you soon. Thank you so much again, Sean. I appreciate your time.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Sure.